I'm Walter Cronkite. What you see behind me is my voice, a picture of it. This is a motion picture soundtrack, and this is the end result of a show business revolution that still ranks as one of the big entertainment stories of the 20th century.
Sound attached to picture. What an incredible feat we've achieved as a people.
There is always the danger that an absent-minded operator will put on the wrong record.
Sure, there were stumbling blocks along the way, but filmmaking is considered by many to be the highest form of art, and it doesn't come overnight. But by stitching sound to picture, we've achieved greatness. This was the best we could do at the time, yet behind the scenes, to make these films better and to do so more efficiently, we soon realized we needed more than just sound attached to picture.
Wait a minute, you ain't heard nothing yet.
We needed to stitch sound and picture to our scripts. And it wasn't that long ago. 2007, Avid ScriptSync was launched. Every editor went nuts. ScriptSync is an Avid product that lives inside Media Composer. It assists filmmakers and video editors with a workflow we've been waiting 100 years for. The ability to quickly sync video and audio clips directly to the lines and lines of words on our scripts and transcripts.
Like in a movie or a play, the show is scripted, which is to say the performers aren't making it up as they go along.
Either someone has written a script ahead of time, or like with documentary or reality shows, someone makes word-for-word transcriptions of what people said, and then builds the script in post-production from those transcripts. You'd think something this awesome would have been around a lot longer. Well, it has. 11 years longer, in fact. Many people are actually confused between what ScriptSync is and what the environment inside Avid Media Composer it works from, namely script-based editing. I know, it's confusing.
Here, I'll make it easier for you.
In 1996, for Hollywood and scripted television, Avid was definitely queen of the realm. It was the mechanism for making films better and more efficiently. They upgraded Media Composer, their primary product for editing films and television, to include this new script-based editing interface, or script integration as some called it. I think back to how much time I spent before it, rifling through transcripts, shuttling back and forth through film reels and tapes. What a waste. I mean, this was just amazing. Yet this is not ScriptSync. This is script-based editing. It's been free, totally free inside Media Composer for over 21 years. That's right, Avid Script-Based Editing is old enough to buy you a beer. So then what is ScriptSync? Simply put, it's a means of making that syncing process happen quicker. Why, was it slow or something? You have no idea. Editors went nuts over ScriptSync when it hit, because although script-based editing was a truly amazing way to work, its workflow was not very automatic. It was brilliant at the time, but eventually some editors and assistant editors came to think of it more as a prohibitively immense workflow to maintain. Not so much for documentary, but certainly for scripted films and television sitcoms and dramas where actor resets and script changes ran amok.
Gee. And I wish I knew what to say.
For a little more detail, here's Michael Phillips, who was one of the principal product designers at Avid at the time, responsible for bringing us script-based editing and ScriptSync.
We had a few hardcore fans of script-based editing in the early days, Jay Cassidy being the first name that comes to thought as an editor. So there was Robert Bramwell, another one. People who insisted that the assistants go through the torture of syncing the script because of the value brought to the editor and the director. But, you could almost count those people on two hands. Once the ScriptSync phonetic engine was added to script-based editing, it took off with a lot of different areas, and certainly in the world of documentary and transcripts, because one of the challenges you still have today with ScriptSync is how much ad lib is being done on set, all the different takes. They won't say it exactly the same way, so there's still some hand correction that has to be done in drama type productions. But in the case of a transcript, where a transcript is generating from what is actually said, it is accurate all the time. So the value there is huge.
It was and is an amazing product. And when it hit, it changed everything.
In this episode, we're going to talk about script-based editing and Avid's patented ScriptSync technology.
This is why ScriptSync has been a paid upgrade. Compared to the hours or even days it saved everyone, its cost really was, and is, a pittance. So we have ScriptSync. Now what? Well, we haven't shot anything yet. There are many people who work on set in a film crew or television broadcast environment. The director, the DP, sound recordist, first AD, boom, gaffer, the list goes on, and changes based on the scale of the production. This is a script supervisor. If a film being made is the same as a house being constructed, then the script supervisor is the person stewarding the architectural blueprints throughout the entire process. There are plenty, and I do mean plenty, of videos out there on YouTube made by script supervisors showing their exact processes.
And then I will line the script on the side with the ruler.
If you've never seen them in action, get ready for some huge amounts of respect. They are the eyes and ears of the editor on the set.
Basically, that's what I do. I kind of try to be like an on-set editing assistant.
You're getting the idea. If you're an editor planning on working in scripted films or television, go meet a script supervisor, and perhaps even go become one's apprentice. Most of us have seen Breaking Bad. Here's a video of its ace editor, Kelly Dixon, and her team talking to Avid's Matt Fury about their process.
We're all coming from a film background where, and you know, when you assist on film, I mean, first of all, there was a workflow, and all that paperwork was there for a reason. It's still there for a reason, but a lot of times now, assistants, I'm finding newer assistants don't really know why there is that paperwork and why there is that workflow.
Well, and there was a standardization.
Right.
Like if you looked at your library, picture was black. Sound was in red.
Yeah.
Because you could go into any cutting room and know where everything is.
Yeah.
You know where the work picture is.
But the thing that I was going to mention was that, like, okay, it was very, very production driven. It's like, okay, the camera reports you'll get and the sound reports you'll get, and you'll get the script supervisor's notes. Those things have to be cross-referenced, and you'll see the circle takes or whatever. Well, what happens when there's a discrepancy? Well, I was always taught the script supervisor is the Bible.
Yeah.
I don't know if assistants are taught that anymore, but that was the thing. So if there was ever a discrepancy between picture and sound, or there's not enough takes, what does the script supervisor say? Okay, then you got to get on the phone and order that from the lab. It may not come till tomorrow or whatever, but you got to get on the phone and order it. The other thing that I found that's like, okay, you can walk into a cutting room, now and say, hey, how much dailies do I have, right? And the assistant's like, well, we don't have it all, so I don't know.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm sorry, you could sit there and take the reports and do the math. That's what you used to have to do, And so I'm just finding that with the automation of so many things, I really wish that they would remember or learn how these things actually interconnected. Because, yes, we may not be rolling film anymore, but there is still that kind of paperwork being done.
Perhaps you're not making a scripted film. Perhaps you're making a documentary.
Where you got...
Someone is being interviewed, someone is conducting the interview, and someone else is jotting down time codes.
That's a difficult question. It's usually when
they're not following a script because, well, no one knows what the interviewee is going to say yet. That has to get transcribed later.
Most people assume that I...
So in the meantime, someone on the shoot realizes, ooh, that was a good line, and jots down the approximate time code. Or if it's a really grassroots independent budget, then no one is doing it on set. The producer goes home to do it later. So many workflows, some structured, and some invented haphazardly. I've worked plenty of productions where producers don't do transcripts and just hand me the interviews with a few scribbled notes and expect me to just put it all together. I'm fine with that. The way that I charge is certainly fine with that. Until the edit is nearly done and it's crunch time, then they're the ones panicking. This is when word-for-word transcriptions are beyond necessary. They are absolutely vital. It's funny how many people over my career have said this exact line. Wait, you really want me to write down every word that they said? If you want ScriptSync to work and work well, your transcripts need to be amazing. Not just slapped together or approximate. They need to be accurate. I'd even recommend word for word, to the point of including ums and uhs, stutters, and restarts. The more you give ScriptSync to latch onto, the better. Today in the small digital production world, a lot of indie filmmakers are doing their own transcripts. Honestly, that is the best way to do it because you're getting intimate with every spoken moment that can feed your film. However, for most of us, it's just not practical. I mean, come on. We don't want to be increasing the amount of time we're on this project by 200%. Plus, how many of us can actually type? Yeah, exactly. So then what?
In order to become an expert typist, it is essential to master the correct typing technique.
There are 3 options for getting transcriptions, and they absolutely subscribe to the theory of cheap or fast or good. And I'll leave it up to you to decide which one fits your production. Cheap.
What, from Africa to here, $1.85? That's an outrage.
Or fast. Or good.
I'd like to help you, but I'm just dripping with offers.
The first option is the cheap option. Download an app to your computer or use a bot on the web that makes speech recognition-based transcripts.
Hey, thank you. Give you the courtesy of looking at this.
Since there isn't a person sitting and listening and typing, the customer is supposed to expect a failure rate. And if you're going the cheap route, maybe that's your goal. Sometimes it's a pretty high failure rate too, depending entirely on how well the microphone was placed, how clear the person spoke, and so on. I remember one of them transcribing words it found in a Jimi Hendrix guitar solo. But there is hope for the future here. SpeedScriber shows a lot of promise. Whether it breaks the suck barrier as far as accuracy remains to be seen, but its interface is just plain cool. The second option is the fast one. Use an upload service that does hire people. On call and on demand. These people bang out transcripts as fast as possible. Think of them as the Uber of the transcription world.
Just before Jane has a nervous breakdown, she discovers Rev.com online.
For this, a lot of independent producers have recently begun using Rev.com. The price is nice, and the speed of getting back transcripts is nice too.
Jane received her transcript that same day and made her deadline.
The third option is the good one. Use a transcription service that includes a full spectrum of services, including confidentiality, a single transcriber assigned to the entire project for consistency, researching the subject matter as it's being transcribed, especially for medical terms, locations, and such, double proofing on the part of the transcriber and the transcription company's manager, back-end confidentiality where all evidence of the work and its transcripts are actually deleted from the contracted transcriber's computer, and then upon request, using all those transcripts to feed the closed captioning, so that you're not starting that part of the process from scratch. This whole thing understandably costs more, but you get what you pay for. Here in the United States, I've been a huge fan of Accurate Secretarial. There are others like it. Here in the United States, outside of the United States, every editor should find a good, small-scale place that has large-scale standard operating procedures. I know it seems like I'm drifting away from ScriptSync a bit and hammering away at how precise your transcriptions need to be, but your transcriptions feed ScriptSync. ScriptSync is only as good as your transcriptions. But if you still think I'm overdoing it, let's get real. Here's a side-by-side comparison. Let's look at the same interview transcribed by Rev.com and by Accurate Secretarial.
Beethoven's Seventh Symphony.
Here's a side-by-side comparison as if it was closed captioned. Accurate Secretarial's on the left, and one of the faster, cheaper options is on the right.
The King's Speech. You know, bum, 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 bum. I get shivers when I think about that. And that's probably a lot of younger viewers' experience in the King's Speech. Well,
Starting to spell it out for you? I hope so. Well, here we are. All transcripts are made, and from them the script was written. Time to load the scripts and the media into the system and get it ready for ScriptSync. The process here is actually the same as it was when ScriptSync first came out. Don't believe me? Well, then let's ask me, back in like 2009 or whatever. Morning, everyone. Just got to work. Got Mick Joe, carpal tunnel, Avid, 10 interview assemblies to cut together, so about 25-30 minutes worth of content. Have to do it all today. I'm going to try to get it done by lunch. Got the gear, got the pen tab. Here we go. It starts out very simply with a Microsoft Word document. You have your interview transcribed, the actual words that they say, physically written down by somebody listening on a DVD player. You go through and you highlight the clips that you want to use in the story. You then save 2 copies of it. First one, save it as a Word document. Second one, save as a plain text file. A dialog comes up asking if you want to insert line breaks. You say yes. And that's it. Okay, 2009 me. Nice try, but you're lacking some details, buddy. Back to today. Don't open Media Composer yet. First, grab a transcript in a folder on your computer. You'll have to reformat it as a text file, .txt, in order to use it in Media Composer. Why is this? It's actually a good thing. All of the extra formatting that comes along with Microsoft Word, borders and shading and outlines, yuck. All of that just gets in the way of you trying to make your film. In order to mark your script in the Avid, with Script-Based Editing's tools, you'll need it to start as a clean thing. Open it in Microsoft Word. Click File, Save As. About 2/3 of the way down, click Format, Plain Text, .txt. I know it says save. Don't worry, it's not going to save right now. Just wait a moment. Click Save and see what happens. See, before it saves, another dialog comes up. This is important. Text encoding, even if you're on a Mac and going to a Mac, just trust me on this. Click MS-DOS. Options, insert line breaks, always. End lines with CRLF, always. Allow character substitution, always. Once you have these 4 things selected, click OK, and it saves your script as a text file. So why those settings? The terminology and operations of script formatting in Avid and all other computing in general came from the old days. So in the background, when any Microsoft Word doc or Final Draft doc or text file is being converted from one thing to another on any computer, that background architecture is following a set of rules created ages ago. And those rules here are, for text encoding, if you do MS-DOS, it allows a few more transferable features between the different OSs. If you do insert line breaks, good. If you don't, you'll be going for the Guinness Book of World Records longest horizontal script ever. CR is carriage return.
The carriage return lever is usually at the left.
This returns the text creator's ability to its left justification. LF is line feed.
So that the paper is set for a new line.
This means the text won't be typing right on top of the last line of text that was typed. Character substitution for when you have a goofy name like mine. Now this is ready to be brought in to Avid Media Composer. Okay, are you ready to sync your script the old way? The archaic, slow way? Let's do that first so you can understand how awesome ScriptSync is. In Composer, click File, New Script. Go and find that script and bring it in. Here it is, completely formatted for the script-based editing environment. Now let me tell you, do this File, New Script a few times, and like everyone else, you'll be begging Avid to expand this to File, New Scripts, plural. Bring them all in at once. Man, we want that. Maybe someday. But for now, let's bring in the video and audio clip that is what was transcribed. File, AMA link, or you can bring it in through legacy methods like file import or digitizing from tape. It depends on where it came from. Now you can't just drag it to the script. That would be like dragging an entire clip into the timeline without any in and out points. Avid wants to make sure you're deciding where it should go. It wants in and out points. So give the clip a listen. Where does it start? Where does it stop? Okay, go highlight that area on the script. See how nice the click and drag ability lets you define the in and out points? This isn't doing any damage to your script. This is just setting in and out points, much like in your sequence timeline. Nothing sticks. Set an in and an out. Is this the right in and out? Are you unsure? Well, unfortunately, you better be sure. It is not, I repeat, not an easy interface for making changes. There is absolutely no trim function like you're used to in the timeline. You don't have to be exact with your in and out. Actually, you can be sloppy, but you need to be sloppy in adding too long of an in and out point rather than too short. Now drag the clip into that area. There it is. But nothing is synced yet. It is only placed. One quick note, Avid refers to these clips as takes once it enters the script-based editing environment. And these little tabs under them are called take tabs. They're what you click on when you want to do something with the takes. Underneath it is a vertical line called the line, hence why these are called lined scripts. I call this the tail, but whatever. It tells Composer that this clip wants to be assigned to this chunk of the transcript. Okay, it's time to sync. Ready? Look here in the toolbar. There's a play button, which plays the take totally separately from Media Composer's source record monitors. There's also a record button. Record? What are we recording if the clip is already captured? We're recording the points at which we want to sync. And we're going to do so live. Hit record. It starts playing the take from the very beginning. So you'll sit and wait through silence, film crew banter, or whatever. Wait for the start. Here it comes.
Okay. For starters, why don't you tell me your name?
Now when you hear the first word, click the clip's magic little green tail here.
State your name and spell it for me.
My name is Scott Sackett. It's S-C-O-T-T, Sackett, S-A-C-K-E-T-T.
Okay.
Do it again.
Do you have a title?
Producer.
And again.
So, give me a little bit of your background.
You can be as line-by-line exact as you want, or if this whole project only has a couple of days of editorial total that you can work on this, just click a few points and deal with the fact later that you're only syncing a few, and that you'll have to shuttle to find all the exact words. What you're doing is adding these little triangles, called script marks. I never call them by that name, though, because it's too easy to confuse someone in conversation between script marks and markers in the timeline. Why didn't they just leave markers called locators? I have no idea. Anyway, I call them carrots. It's an old term, and I'm old, so forgive me. Anyway, add the next carrot, and the next, and the next. Are you bored yet? Getting nervous because you already spent time transcoding or digitizing, and the producer is demanding real results, not this tedious junk? Well, tough. Sit here and do this for the next 40 hours of all the interviews that were shot. Or buy ScriptSync, the real ScriptSync. Ready to see it? Okay, delete this puppy. It's gone. Again, highlight the in and out, drag the clip. It becomes a take. Click Script, ScriptSync, OK. Done. Next script. Done. Next script. Done. Those 40 hours? You'll now be done in what, like 1 hour, maybe 2, tops? How much do you charge per hour? Yeah, ScriptSync. No brainer. So the webinar is done. That's it. That was ScriptSync. Okay, cool. Bye. Not quite. Let's go back and look at all those settings I just breezed by you. Script, ScriptSync. Choose your language. You can have multiple languages in ScriptSync, as long as it's one at a time. Go on the web to your my.avid.com account to download more languages as needed. Tracks. In the film shoot, did your sound recordist record boom mic on audio 1 and lavalier mic on audio 2? Are you only needing to sync one or the other? Here's where you decide this. And only choosing one or the other doesn't save space on your hard drive. There's not much space that we're talking about. It's very small. And here are a bunch of selectables for how the script was formatted. Take note of these. They're self-explanatory, but decide for yourself, based on these, if you want to communicate this information to the person doing your transcripts. Kinda hard to do when it's just a robot, but whatever. Are the characters in your story or your interviews listed by name in the transcripts in all caps? In parentheses, is there stage direction, or did the interview pause for a moment to deal with a motorcycle driving by or whatever? Is it a true Hollywood script with lines that are indented? If so, there is a workflow here to set exactly how much of an indent. So those are the settings, and basically they just decide how many or how few carets get added. Now back to the script-based editing interface, because everything to do with ScriptSync is actually completed. And now we're just in the script-based editing interface. A beautiful new feature added for script-based editing 2.0 is text editing. It was so bad in the past, because it was designed back when Microsoft Word was still defining itself. I wouldn't expect something as robust as Microsoft Word to be inside Media Composer, but this new text editing is a really nice compromise. It works great. You add or change text, and the carets move dynamically. Sure, you could do this for script rewrites, I guess, on a Hollywood script, but for now, let's just look at transcripts. Let's say you didn't use the good transcription facility, and you find some text that's just wrong. Click Edit, fix it, and you're done. More things in the toolbar here. You know record and play. Find bin is great for quickly getting you out of the script-based editing interface and into the clip itself. When Scenes and Pages as a feature was originally designed back in the 90s, that's what it was for. A Hollywood script and a producer saying, hey, go to page 11, scene 3. And I guess if that's your actual workflow today, then power to you. But you're definitely in the minority. The majority of editors using script-based editing these days are documentary and reality. Just might not be effective for you. Set color. Yeah, baby. Here's where the color coding geek in me jumps out. Is this a good line? Color it. Is there a bad line or one that you can't say for legal or non-disclosure reasons? Color it. Color it green. Color it red. Color it whatever you want. Go along with the color scheme used a lot in Final Draft, or just make up your own. Set off screen. This little squiggly line thingy actually has a classic purpose in Hollywood lined scripts. It means that you are making everyone aware that this part of the script is being spoken by someone whose mouth is not being seen in the shot. It's being spoken off screen. So for TV sitcoms, this is during the reaction shot. For documentary, I use it to designate when I would like to be off camera, meaning don't be on the interview for this chunk. Be on B-roll or an archive or whatever. As of this new version of ScriptSync and script-based editing, there are also some nice interface upgrades. As a default, it comes with line numbers and gray-colored line separations. A lot of folks use this, and a lot of folks are really impressed by it. So there it all is. ScriptSync and script-based editing. It's really impressive, but not just for documentary. Reality television has truly come to look at it as an irreplaceable option. And don't just take my word for it. Let's hear from a top editor working in reality shows. You've seen a lot of work from ace editor Mary DeChambre. In fact, she has helped define the genre. She's cut Real World, she's cut Project Runway All-Stars, and recently one of my favorites, American Ninja Warrior.
We're on our way to the course right now. It's a little bus for ninjas.
Mary, do you do all this yourself, or do you have input into the hiring of assistants?
Rarely do I ever get a chance to have any input on an assistant editor. But generally, where I've worked, the assistants have been competent. Where I'm at right now, they are beyond competent. I think I'm with the strongest assistant team I've ever worked with in my life right now on American Ninja Warrior. I mean, because these guys have to navigate through not just a season of material, but they also keep track of all the past seasons of material, because we have contestants that have been on the show since season 1. And so they'll have consolidated sequences at their fingertips of every person's run, so that I can go back if I'm cutting a package about their 15th appearance on American Ninja Warrior, and I have the consolidated sequences of their run, so I can go back and completely recut the run. It's always fresh, and I always have new angles, and it's just so much media for them to manage, and they do it so well. It's so well organized that everything's really at my fingertips. I've never been at a lack for material.
Gosh, that must be fun. What specifically do you edit?
I cut primarily the pop-in packages, so I cut all the background packages. So I help you kind of get to know the person and get to know what's at stake, so you're rooting for them, when you watch them.
Thursday, it's the Project Runway.
Help us understand your workflow for this.
Actually, when I'm over at Buena Murray working on Project Runway, we have a similar workflow there in that we have a story department that actually does string out a rough cut of the show. And they actually only do the first half of the show. They cut everything up until the runway. They don't actually cut the runway. And that goes to our executive producer in-house, John Murray, and he actually watches that cut, and he gives his notes based on that. And then that is what gets handed over to the editors. That's what gets handed to me. So I'll get that script with his notes and what he feels is missing or lacking or what needs to change direction, and I'll have that string out. It's just kind of a rough skeleton to start from. But that's where I use ScriptSync the most is over on that show. It makes it easy for me to find those moments, and I'm not having to watch all the raw footage, because for me to have to sit and watch all the raw footage for a reality show, that's just an overwhelming task. We don't really have a script or work with a script. We have, field notes, and that's about it. Now, we do have transcriptions made of the interviews, and so that's what I work with primarily. And rather than, read a paper transcript, which is just silly, I use ScriptSync to find where they're talking about, let's say, their avant-garde look or whatever it is I'm trying to find, what information on.
What is avant-garde?
And then I can just skim through so quickly everything they say about that particular look or that outfit. If I flesh out the story a little more and we not change the reason, but we put a different emphasis on the reason why they go home, for example. So then I'll go back through the entire episode and try and make sure that we lead, their story to that moment, so it makes sense when they're sent home for a really bad hem. I can't come out of nowhere. I've got to go back and find all the moments I can where they're talking about that hem or hemming the pants, and you know what I mean? So it just helps me so much.
Mary, I'm so glad you could be here for this. Thank you so much.
Okay, all right, bye-bye.
This webinar is just an adjunct to the wealth of wisdom out there on ScriptSync. Over the years, some of the brightest people we have in our industry have written about it and presented about it. Go Google Oliver Peters. Google Michael Kamas and his awesome 5 Things series. Google ace editor Steve Odette, one of the strongest voices that we've had for ScriptSync. Go to 24p.com. From Michael Phillips, the former principal designer at Avid, who co-created Avid ScriptSync and Script-Based Editing. Or do what I did. Just play. Just start opening things and clicking on things. And mess up intentionally. Go break stuff. Then go fix it. The only way to learn how to dig yourself out of a hole is to throw in a shovel and then dive after it. Craft editing is a challenge, and we must never get to a point when we're above the challenge. If we do, we stop being better filmmakers, and we stop being better storytellers. ScriptSync is tremendous technology because it helps us be better storytellers. More gets done, and less story gets missed. And we must be focused on the story. In order to give audiences the feeling of total immersion, we must operate behind the scenes madly. One person in a room madly pursuing an idea. It's the only thing that has ever worked.